Okay, so why don't we get started? So my name is Ben Lauer, and I work here on the Ultravox team. And today we're going to do our first live stream. So I don't know how it's going to go. I'm going to do my best to show you how to create a voice agent using Ultravox. This is going to be a multiple stream series. I think it's probably going to be three total sessions and maybe it'll be a little bit more than that. We'll just kind of see how it goes. But I want to actually just jump in here and start with kind of framing. So Fixie is a company where I work. We have a product called Ultravox. It's an open source model. The weights are on Hugging Face. The code's on GitHub. Our model's called Ultravox. And we've created what we think is the best speech to speech solution on the market. We have a whole set of services. This is where we make our money. We have a whole set of services called Ultravox Real Time, and those are available. We give every new account 30 free minutes. We charge a flat 5 cents US per minute of talk time. And we've done all the hard work to make real time speech to speech communication between humans and AI possible. So, what I'm going to do in this live stream is actually build a voice agent. I'm going to do it live. This isn't pre-built. I'm probably going to make mistakes. I'm probably going to use my AI coding assistant to, get help. But you can see the process. And at the end of this, all the code will be posted on GitHub. These videos of the live stream will be, on this channel going forward if you want to refer to them. But I would like to entertain questions in the chat. So if you want to engage in the chat, I encourage you to do so. To do that, you will need to subscribe to the channel. And then there's going to be a short delay that you have to endure before you can comment. But I'll be keeping an eye on the chat as best I can. So with that, why don't we jump into some framing? So, I've heard from lots of our customers, hey, these are the types of things that we want to build. We want to build outbound agents that can call people to remind them of appointments or check in on things, poll them, ask questions. We want to have inbound calls answered. We want to do customer support. We don't want our customers to have to wait on hold to talk to our team. We want to connect them instantly to an AI agent who knows everything about the product and can give, tier one, maybe tier two support. So I've kind of taken a lot of these things that I've heard from our community, and I've created this idea. And I'm actually gonna, once this series is done, I'm actually gonna go and deploy this with a local organization here in my area who would benefit from this, and they're very interested in this. So the idea here is we're going to build this community center receptionist. So I just want to state up front, the community center is fictional, but I feel like it'll be a rich space for us to explore and hopefully give you all the ideas about how you can apply this to your business or to your organization or your use case. So I'm going to use these slides just to kind of tee this up. And then what we'll do is we'll start building and we'll get into setting up our GitHub repo. And then once the GitHub repo is kind of set up, that's where I'm going to stop the broadcast today. And then we'll pick it up again tomorrow to further build things out. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So the overview of the community center, right? So they've got multiple departments. They've got events, right? So people in the community rent out the community center to do events and banquets and weddings and all kinds of stuff. But there's also a lot of sports programs. They've got a whole swimming program with leagues and swim lessons. Same with basketball, same with soccer, or for any of you viewers out there outside of the US, football, right? So there's a lot happening at the community center. And it's hard for people who are interested in the community center to kind of keep up to date with all the emails and where do they get their information, right? So part of what we want to do is kind of solve that and make it easier. But also our community center, the schedule is really full. It's really busy. Not only are there all these events coming up all the time, but there's practices and the leagues and the lessons that I mentioned. And so, how can we manage all of that? And then this is actually kind of a sore subject right now, and it's something that the center is really trying to solve. Um, People are busy and they set up lessons and then they no show. Well, the problem for the community center is that no show means they have coaches that are not fully utilized. They're not getting paid, and there's other things they could be doing. So the community center has instituted a no show fee. So any of these customer or any of these students that don't show up, they have to pay a late fee, and that's caused the students and more importantly their parents to become angry and be like, wait, what? This isn't fair. So we're going to try to address this as well. Okay, so with that sort of framing, let's look at our requirements. So requirement number one, our receptionist is going to be the front line for the community center. We're not going to have some stupid, antiquated IVR where it's like press one for the swim coach, press two for, those things are really lame. And also, the callers might have questions that could be quickly answered. So we want the AI receptionist to answer all the incoming calls. In addition to answering the call, the agent is going to be able to answer common queries. Things like, where are you located? What are your hours? Tell me more about the swimming program and how that works. What are the events that are happening this week and this month, right? So this is going to really, really improve the user experience of the community center members or users because they can just call, get right through, and get, I'm making this up, but it's probably the 80-20 rule, right? Like 80% of their queries can probably be answered instantly by a well-designed AI agent. So finally, actually, maybe this isn't finally. I think they've got one more thing after this. The agent needs to be able to transfer the calls. So there are complex calls that come in that are outside of that 80% sweet spot that I made up. And maybe somebody's like really complaining or it's some like hot topic about their kid, or hey, tell me more about how the league works or something like that. So uh, the agent's going to be able to transfer calls to the proper department, the swim coach or the soccer coach or football coach or and whatnot. And then I think last on this slide, to combat that no-show fee, because really the community center is not trying to make their money off of no-show fees, right? um, the agent will actually be able to, or sorry, we want the agent to proactively call and remind students of upcoming appointments. So you can see how this type of a reminder system might be applicable to lots of industries and use cases. But in our case, what we want it to do is we want it to call, get the confirmation. If they can't make it, cancel or reschedule. Okay, so that's just going to help us utilize everything a lot better. So I want to talk briefly here about our data. So what we're going to do is we're going to manage all of the lessons using a calendar. And we'll talk more about this as we get into building it more tomorrow and then follow on session. The center information, that sort of bread and butter information, location, hours, big events that are happening. We're going to actually put those in our agent prompt or the system prompt, you might call it. And so that's going to allow things just to be, super quick and just sort of those like bread and butter questions. It's just going to be easy to reply to those. And then for deeper things like programs and policies, hey, can you tell me about all the rules of the soccer league? That is actually going to be using a RAG service. And if you don't know what a RAG service is, we'll get into this when we get to that part. But RAG just stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, and essentially it's a technique where we can take additional data. It can be product data, or in this case, like league data, and we can store that in a way that the agent can then query and retrieve in real time to answer deeper questions and have additional context in those conversations. So that's just like a high level of how we're going to deal with our data. There's probably other ways we could do this. This is how I'm going to do it. And so if you have suggestions on that, feel free to share that in the chat. And then we're going to use a few different services here as we go through. So we're going to use the Ultravox real-time service that I mentioned at the beginning. And so this is going to allow us to create the voice agent. It's going to allow us to do our tool calling. But we're also going to use it's a feature we're getting very close to releasing, something we call the corpus service. And so this is what we're going to use for RAG. You don't have to use the Ultravox corpus service. You can use any other RAG service that's out there. It's essentially just a tool call, but these are the things we're going to use Ultravox for. We're also going to use Twilio. If you're not familiar with Twilio, you might be familiar with other telephony type of API providers like Telnix or Plivo or some of the other ones. I'm going to use Twilio. We're basically just going to use Twilio to handle our incoming and outgoing calls, and we're going to use the Twilio APIs to integrate with Ultravox. And then finally, we're going to use cal.com for lesson scheduling. We're going to use cal.com because they have a great API, and they also integrate with lots of different calendars on the back end. But that's just kind of like high level of the services we're going to be using. So I want to talk here for a few moments just about like how the incoming call is going to work, right? So this is just like a high level kind of flow, just so you kind of get the concept. So someone calls in to the center, and that call is getting routed through Twilio. Twilio will basically, via a webhook, they will call out to the application that we're going to build, right? So our application is this sort of robot icon in the middle, and our application is going to expose an endpoint that we're going to just put at /incoming. Twilio is going to hit that, and they're going to say, hey, you've got this call coming in. So then our application will respond to that, and then we'll create a call using Ultravox real time. And when that call is created, we give that, this is sort of where we kind of create this voice agent, right? We say, what's the agent's prompt? What's the voice we want to use? What language is this speaking? Ultravox, by the way, can speak many languages natively. But also, we're going to provide this call or this agent with a set of tools that it can use during the call. And so the two kind of primary tools that we're going to provide for incoming calls is a tool that we're going to call lookup info. So this is where we can do that RAG, the RAG queries that I mentioned earlier, and the agent will have the ability to go look up deeper information so that it can provide better answers to the callers. But then it will also have this ability to transfer calls. Then when we get to the outgoing calls for these lesson reminders, we're actually going to use, I'm going to use a GitHub action. You could use any scheduler that you want. I think GitHub actions are just really easy to use, and they're free. You can use it for free for a small number of jobs. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have this daily job that's going to just run. It's going to run at, I don't even know, we'll make it up, like 1 in the morning or something like this. And actually 1 in the morning is a bad idea, because the idea is it's going to run and it's going to do the call. So maybe we'll do it at like, 9 a.m. local time or something like this. And then what it's going to do is that job is going to then hit our application. Our application is then going to query out with to the cal.com API to get upcoming lessons. Now we're going to define this in our application here, but really it's kind of up to you or up to the policy of the organization. But I think what we'll do is we'll look ahead, like say 3 to 7 days or something like that. So we're going to look at upcoming lessons. And then it's going to loop through all of those lessons and create a new call, an outbound call. This call will have the transfer call tool. Again, this is kind of optional, but I could see that in this case, maybe the student's like, hey, let me talk to the swim coach or whatever. We could give the tool to enable that transfer. But really, the thing we really need here is the ability for the agent to change the appointment. Okay, so that's going to be the primary tool here. And so then that call gets connected. Again, we're going to use Twilio, and then someone answers or not. And that's kind of how that flow works. And then lastly, during the call, if we need to modify that lesson, if we need to cancel it or reschedule, we'll again be calling out via that change appointment tool, but that'll be, using the cal.com API to update the calendar. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about this lesson reminders approach. So this may be obvious, but I find that when you're building these agents, it's really important to think about the overall flow and what you're trying to accomplish. So we want the agent to make the call and confirm the lesson. So, hey, this is virtual assistant calling from the community center, calling to make sure that we're still on for next Tuesday for your basketball lesson. Yep, got it on the calendar. See you there. Student confirms, all good, in the call, job done. If the student is like, hey, I have a conflict or I can't make it, now what we want to do is we want to reschedule. So ideally, we would say, great, here's a couple options in the next week. Do any of those work for you? Let's reschedule, and then let's just update the calendar. So this, actually, I need to probably let me move my bubble up here so you can see down here at the bottom. So the call has a beginning and an end, right? So that's probably obvious. So I've just put those kind of here to, so that we can kind of keep track of those. But basically the call is going to start. We're going to validate, hey, are we talking to the student? Maybe we make it more complicated and we could, have in our database the student's guardian or something like that. Basically, hey, are we talking to the right person? If we're not, hey, sorry, we'll try again, end the call. Okay. If we are, now let's confirm the lesson. If the lesson is confirmed, great, end the call. If the lesson's not confirmed, now we want to reschedule, right? So do we reschedule the lesson? Yes, end the call. No, we can't reschedule. Well, then let's just cancel it and let's make sure that the student knows they can contact their coach at some future date if they still want to do the lesson. But then we can cancel the lesson, clear up that coach's time on the calendar, and then end the call. So I think it's important to think about these sort of like stages in your call. And we actually do have a feature in the Ultravox real-time service called call stages, which maps very nicely to this sort of logical, multi-prompt flow, maybe you've heard it called. But this allows us to kind of like have very contextual prompting and keep the agent very driven for a specific task in the moment. Okay, so there's some prerequisites. So this is the technology that we're going to use. So I'm going to use Node.js. You don't have to use Node to build with Ultravox. You can use any backend technology that you want. And if you're building front-end applications, we're not going to build a front end here, but we do have 5 SDKs to make it easy to build in like whatever environment that you're in. But I'm just going to be using sort of the back end integrations here. I'm going to use ngrok because Twilio, when they make that call, when that incoming call comes in, Twilio needs a public URL or a public endpoint that webhook can hit. I'm not going to go stand this all up in production. I'm just going to run it locally on my machine. And ngrok essentially allows us to set up a tunnel so that we can get a free public URL that's just using our local host environment. So I'm going to use ngrok for that. And then obviously you need to have an Ultravox account. If you don't have one, you can go create one for free and get 30 free minutes of talk time. And then it's 5 cents a minute after that. App.ultravox.ai, and you can go create an account. We'll need an account, and technically we'll also need an API key for Ultravox. And then we also need a Twilio account and phone number. We need a cal.com account and event type ID. and then our RAG service. Again, I'm going to use the Ultravox Corpus service, but you can use any RAG service that you want. So with that, I'd like to start building. Okay, so why don't we just pause for a moment here and let me look at the chat and see. There's a question. Sounds like somebody was having audio issues, but not everyone. So sorry, Eli, that your audio is dropping out. Hopefully, it's not a sign that your hearing is going. I don't know. It's probably just a glitch in the internet. Brad asked, "Is this being recorded?" Yes, Brad, this is being recorded, so it's live streamed. This entire video will be posted here on our Ultravox AI channel after the fact. And then Mandar asks, or no, Mandar was just saying, yes, it is being recorded. So thanks, Mandar, for answering the question there. And then, yeah, Karen, how you doing? Nice to see you. Feel free to just kind of jump in with any questions that come up as we go. But what I want to do now, oh, okay, it was Eli's headphones. Good, good, good. Glad to hear it wasn't your hearing. Important to charge those headphones. So I want to go to, let's see, let's go to the browser here for a minute. So this, what we're looking at here is the repository that I have created. Actually, let me just bump this size up a little bit. I think it's a little small in the window there for y'all. So what I've done here is I've just created this repository. This is public. There's nothing in here as of now, but as we build, we'll be adding code here. And I want to just point out that this is just github.com/fixie-ai community-center-receptionist. Not a super creative name, but this is where the code is going to live. I also want to show though that here in um, in the Fixie repositories, we have the ultradocs repo, and this is the repository that actually powers all of our developer documentation. I don't expect any of this to be interesting. If it is, feel free to review the content. But we have an examples folder, and we have this incoming advanced example code that we posted a few weeks ago, and there's a video that walks through this code. What I'm going to do actually is just take this code and start from this. So I've just let me switch over to my dev environment here. So what I've done is I've taken that code from the advanced JS example that I just showed, and I've just copied that code in here locally, and I'm going to use this as my starting point. Okay. So also just to call out when we are building, or if you're trying to follow along at home, or you're gonna do this after the fact, you may want to have a .env file. This is how I typically like to keep track of all of my API keys and my secrets. So things like our Twilio information, or if we're calling a destination phone number or an Ultravox API key, it's totally optional. You can hard code these into your code if you want. I don't recommend that, but you do want to make sure that you have a good way to manage your keys. And so that's what we've got going here. So let's see, where do we want to go now? I think what we want to do is let's start with our config file. And so this ngrok URL is not valid. This was just something that was populated from the previous example code. So we're going to need to get this updated. But why don't we actually start with our system prompt? So we can see here we have a fictional HVAC company that we used in that last example. So I think what we want to do is just update this prompt, and then we'll show how we're going to define our tools. So again, for our first step, actually, let me pull a couple other files in here that I created. Just give me 1 second here. Well, that's interesting that those are gone. Hmm, hmm, hmm. Well, wouldn't you know it, the demo gods are not in my favor. Put some files in a folder, and that folder is not here. Well, let's not worry about that for now. Let's just keep going. So I think the thing we want to do here is let's just start with our prompt. So we know from our early example, and let's just make a couple of comments here. So let's just say we need to basic prompt for receptionist, include information about the center, and then tools for lookup info and transfer call. So that was what we said we wanted to kind of set up. So I think what we want to do here in the first session is I'd like to just get the basic kind of prompt written and set it up so that we get the incoming calls working. And then what we'll do is we'll end the session there, and then what we'll do, and then we'll pick it up tomorrow, and we'll start then like building out all the functionality to handle the incoming calls as we go. So your name is, I mean, we could actually just stay with Steve. Steve can be our receptionist. You are a virtual AI receptionist at the uh, at let's just call it CCR. Anybody over the age of 40, that might connote a classic rock band. That's going to just stand for community. Um, what was this? Community center receptionist. Uh, so we'll just call it CCC, a local community center. Your job is as follows. And then what I'm going to do is just reuse some of this content here. So save myself some typing. Um, use the Q&A section below for basic questions. For more complex questions, and then let's see here. Let me give myself a little more room here so we can see more of the screen. You must use the info lookup tool. Um, do not make answers up. Okay. Let's see here. If a caller is angry or has a topic that you cannot answer, you can use the okay. So then I think we can just start with this. So what I find when I'm making these types of agents is that I kind of start with a plan. I start providing a basic prompt, and then I will typically, do some calls to test it, and then I'll find things that I need to update in the prompt. So I'm going to probably use a similar approach here, but let's go back to the code here, and now let's start making a section here for um, Q, what do we call it up above? Q&A. So let's see here. If we go like um, CCC, location, and hours. So then we can say the center is located at 123 Any Street, Seattle, Washington, 98105. The center is open 7 days a week from okay. I mean, this is like probably the most available community center in the world, right? With these hours, but you get the idea. We can just kind of fill this out. Um, what types of programs are available? Okay, so I think that's probably a good start here, just to kind of like get the idea for how we might do some basic Q&A. Let me just do a quick check on the stream here. Karen asks, will you show us RAG, and does RAG on the fly affect latency? If so, how much? So Karen, yeah, I'm going to get into RAG. I'm going to get into that more tomorrow in the next session. But what I'm going to do there is I'll actually show um, some documents that I'm gonna bring in for some like detailed rules on like soccer and swimming and that type of thing. And then I'll show how to create a tool. We'll basically build out that lookup info tool to use it. I think it's a good question about latency. I think that anytime we're doing a tool call, whether it's for RAG or any other type of functionality we want to give to the agent, we want to be very mindful of latency, and we want to have those tool calls happen as fast as possible. There's some things that we can do to reduce the perceived latency of tools. Like you can have the agent say, hey, I'm going to need a minute to go look that up. Is that cool? And you can kind of, just like you would if you were talking to a human support agent, they might say, hey, I need a minute to look it up. Um, but we are optimizing our RAG service, the Ultravox Corpus service, to be as fast as possible. So we're investing in speed and those things. So I think like when that comes out here in the next couple weeks, We want you to try it and let us know what you think, but we are committed to that being as the fastest RAG service possible to keep the latency very low. Um, so let's see here. Uh, Mandar is asking if I can do this from scratch. I'm Mandar, we can maybe look at trying to do something like that in a future broadcast or a future live stream where it's more like a step by step kind of thing. I'm not planning to kind of go at that pace. I'm planning to go faster here. But you can obviously rewatch the the video at your own speed and and try to do it that way. So I apologize. This isn't set up as kind of like a live, instructor-led training type of thing. And then Karen says, do Alt Z. I'm not sure what that means. So maybe you can elaborate, Karen, if I didn't answer your question. So let's get back to VS Code here. And so we've kind of got like our um, basic prompt here. And I want to call out down here, I've got this object that I created, Ultravox call config, and this is using the Ultravox model. We do provide additional models, but this is just using the default Ultravox model, which defaults to our 7 dB variant. I'm using a voice called Mark. We have dozens of voices included in the service. And if there's a particular voice that you're looking for, you can reach out. We're always adding new voices in response to what our customers need. We're setting the temperature here to .3. And this first speaker agent is actually here because this is set up as an incoming call. So what this means is that on an incoming call, so a human is calling the AI, we expect the first person to speak to be the AI, right? If I called you and you answered the phone, you'd probably say, hello. So you would be the first to speak. So this is just saying like the agent's going to talk first to answer the call. And then for an outgoing call, we would set it to first speaker user. We'll get into that more when we get to the outgoing call portion. And then we're using our medium of Twilio, and then we have these selected tools. So I think what I want to do right now is actually let's just do a test. I'm going to comment out selected tools. So let's jump back to our browser and let's go in to Twilio and let's log in. And what I'm going to do now in Twilio is I'm going to configure a Twilio phone number to be able to hand off the phone calls as we showed in our diagram earlier. So before I do that, actually, let's just jump back to our slides here for a second. So just as a reminder, and let's see, what slide was that? Maybe slide 5. Okay, slide 6. So remember, as we built out our incoming call, we need Twilio to have a webhook that hits our, whoops, sorry about that. I grabbed the wrong thing here. I'm trying to get my face out of the way. So we wanted, the webhook needs to come in on the incoming endpoint on the, and then start the call. So if we go back to our browser and actually I'm going to come back to me for a second because I don't want to reveal all my Twilio phone numbers here on the live stream. So let me just come in here and grab a number. Um, let's see here. Which one do I want to use? Okay, so here, now we can come back to my browser. And so we're going to use this phone number here. So we're going to pretend that this is the phone number for our community center. And so you can see here in Twilio, when a call comes in, we want to do a webhook to this endpoint. So I've actually used this number. I think when you saw at the beginning when I kind of had that starter code for that Twilio advanced incoming, I was using this number to test. That's why we already see this here. But let's go back to VS Code and let's start this up. And okay, so Karen or Karan, I'm not sure how you say your name. Apologize if I'm butchering it. Said the Alt Z was to have the text automatically wrap. And I think on a Mac it's probably going to be Option Z. So yeah, that I guess Option Z toggles it on so we don't have to keep scrolling. So thanks for the tip, Karen. I think that is better. So what we want to do here is let's bring up our terminal here and Uh, first thing we need to do is I'm going to use PNPM. Feel free to use yarn or if you want to use NPM. But the first thing I want to do is PNPM install to bring in all of our dependencies. So you can see here, and actually I'll just point this out real quick in our package.json file. Um, I did copy this from the other project, so let's update this to Community Center Receptionist. We've got, I don't think we care about this being private. It has a start script, and we're going to bring in Twilio. We're going to use Express for our API, and then we're using .env to pull in the environment variables. So that looks good to me. So we've got our dependencies installed. So now what we need to do is let's start up another terminal window and let's run ngrok. Before I do that, yeah, we've got this defaulting to port 3000 in our code. So let's do ngrok http 3000. So now we have an ngrok URL that's public on the internet that tunnels to our local host. So I'm going to copy this URL and then let's go back to our browser and let's put that URL in here and then scroll down and save our configuration. Okay, so now we should have Twilio pointed to our local host. But I need to do one more thing. And inside VS Code, I need to actually pnpm start. So great, we've got our server running on port 3000. And now, and hey, if anybody has an idea or a hot tip in the how I can share my phone calls uh, and get the audio of the phone call to come through the live stream, I would love to know that because I don't have any good ideas there. But let me do this. I'm going to go into my phone. So again, our phone this is my phone here. I'm going to go into dial the number 872-327-3200. I'm going to call. We are sorry. An application error has occurred. Goodbye. Okay, so I got an application error has occurred, which is a recording I've heard many times from Twilio. So that means I have something that's just not set up correctly. So let me think about this for a second. What might that be? So I have my code here. I wonder if this .env file is getting in the way. So let's try that because I have all of my environment variables saved as local variables in my terminal. So I wonder if that was causing a conflict. Let's try this again. We are sorry. Nope. Okay, so I'm getting it again. So now let's do this. Let's go back to the browser And let's look at our calls. So this looks like our two calls that just happened. See if we get any good info on the error here. Cannot post to incoming. Okay, so then let's look back at our code. So maybe I don't have our routes exposed. Oh, this is right. I made a change when I actually posted the code. I actually put it under a slash Twilio. So I think if I look at my routes here, I have, yeah, okay. So that's basically the issue. So I need to come back to my config here. Let's go back and needs to be slash Twilio slash incoming. Save. All right, fingers crossed. I'm sure you all don't want to just sit here and watch me debug this.
Hello. Thank you for calling the community center. My name is Steve. How can I help you today?
Yeah, hey Steve, this is Ben. I was wondering if you could tell me where the center is located and what the hours are.
Hi, Ben. Nice to talk to you. The community center is actually located at 23 Any Street, right here in Seattle, WA 98105. And as for our hours, we're open 7 days a week from 6 a.m. all the way to 10 p.m. So you can come visit us anytime that's convenient for you. Is there something specific you're looking to do or attend here at the center, Ben?
Yeah, I was actually looking to get my daughter, she's 10 years old, into swimming. Do you have a program for her?
That's great to hear, Ben. Yes, we do have a swimming program for kids around her age. We offer lessons for all ages, including a youth swimming program that's perfect for 10-year-olds. I can give you more details on the schedule, pricing, and what to expect, but I'd like to make sure I provide you with the most up to date information. Let me just check on that for you real quick.
Okay, so I know you couldn't hear the call, but Mark did answer the call just as we would expect based on the prompt. He was able to answer the questions about the location and the hours and the swimming program. And then what's interesting is he said, "Hey, let me look up some additional information." And then that actually didn't work. So, and I'm sure that if you were watching earlier when we were doing our prompt, it would make sense because we said, "Hey, for complex or more info, use the info lookup tool." But we actually didn't provide that tool. So it's no wonder that that tool call wouldn't actually work because we haven't actually, we basically told Mark he had a tool, but we didn't actually give him the tool. So I think with that, I feel like this is a good stopping point to just say we've kind of got everything set up. We've got our basic prompt done. And so what I want to do tomorrow in the session is I think with tomorrow's session will be more involved. We'll probably need to go much longer and probably take some breaks as we go. But what we'll do tomorrow is we will fully wire up the full incoming call flow. So that means the information lookup tool will create that corpus, will create that tool. We'll also create the transfer call tool. And I don't know if anybody out there is feeling brave, we might try to transfer the call to your phone number and see how that goes. We'll have some fun with it, and we'll just kind of go. Before I wrap up, let me just look and see if there's anything. Oh, so Karen said you could actually hear the call. So I guess my headset was doing a good job picking up the microphone. So maybe that's the low tech way to go. I was thinking there's going to be some way to like have the call through some phone emulator or whatever, but I just hold it up to my headset and maybe that's the way to go. So thanks everyone for joining. Again, this is going to go, this recording will be available a little bit later today. And then if you just keep an eye on the Discord channel, I will post the schedule for tomorrow, but I'm planning to just kind of do it at the same time. It'll be 8:30 a.m. I think we'll target 8:30 a.m. Pacific time again tomorrow, and we'll just go until we get that incoming call built, and then what we'll do is we'll plan for Monday to pick it up again to do the outgoing call. And hopefully that'll be enough. I think the outgoing call might be a little bit hairy in terms of like the scheduler and then the calendar and does our data model. We're going to have a database to keep track of. So there's kind of some more moving parts there, but we'll get through that. So thanks again for joining, and hope to see you again tomorrow.